was a male that they did, arrest and pull out of that vehicle. I cannot say for certain that it was 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, but you would certainly assume so if that's a vehicle that they were looking for, and they did take a male into custody. Did not get a great what may happen at that point. That was the first 3 hours of our morning, waiting for something to happen, and they busted in the door. It looked like they were processing the scene inside of the apartment that we had as an address associated. And then that car that they had been looking for, the Mitsubishi Mirage, the red 2017, we've been talking about it all morning, just happened to drive past the apartment as SWAT team officers were walking back out to their vehicles. At that point, I missed the car. I didn't see it. Our photographer, Elliot, here said that was the car. And SWAT team officers then immediately started sprinting. The cars peeled out, 3, 4, 5 SWAT cars, undercover cop cars peeled out and immediately just hit the road and it followed this car. And, there's some folks out here outside of a bank nearby. If Elliot can kind of pan over to those folks over there, they were just giving a round of applause to these SWAT officers. And I second that. We saw it in action as they left the scene where they were. Literally moments later, they have now what you would assume is the suspect in custody with this car. So, hats off to the SWAT team that's here. It looks like we've got Thornton Police as well, Westminster Police, Adams County Sheriff's here. The crime scene unit is now here. So you can imagine that this area will be blocked off for quite some time at Federal and 72nd, but that seems to be lesser news at this point. At this point, you certainly hope that this suspect is in custody, and that was, in fact, the male that they did pull out of that vehicle and arrest right in front of us here. I saw it briefly. It was a male. That's all I can tell you. I could not identify if it was the suspect, but it was a male. And I will say, I don't know where we lost you guys as we were kind of coming up here on the scene, but there was a very loud flash bang as we were walking up here on scene. Now, I was just told by a bystander here, not by authorities, but they said that they did that to keep people out of the area, because when you have SWAT trucks, Bearcats, several, I believe that's what they call their SWAT trucks, the Bearcats, several police cars into an area, people are curious. They want to know what's going on, so people started to look around and kind of get into the area, and they set off a flash bang to kind of back people up from the area. But once again, that red Mitsubishi Mirage, they did catch up to it. The SWAT officers, police officers were able to get in there and pull a suspect out of the car, pull a male out of the car. You assume it's the suspect, but no confirmation yet at this point. I'm sure our news desk back there in the studio is working hard to get in touch with the authorities to see what it is. We will certainly do that here as well. But these officers right now, as you can see, are concerned about blocking off the scene, and keeping people safe. A crowd is starting to gather here in this area. And people are curious. I've already had someone come up and ask me what's going on, and you assume it's yeah. Absolutely, you guys. It is. Absolutely, and this. Absolutely, and this goes back to, if you're just now joining us, we talked to you throughout the morning that we wanted to be transparent to our viewers, to let them know, hey, we are here, we are following some leads that we have heard over the scanners, that we have seen, that we have, resources that we can at the station where we can look up addresses. So we were following that information. We wanted to be transparent to our viewers, but at the same time, we did not want to compromise the investigation and maybe show where the SWAT team units were set up outside of his apartment. And that's why we did what we did. not saying that helped at all what was going on, but obviously you would think the suspect did not know that they were at his residence, at his apartment, or he wouldn't have driven by in the car that everyone has been looking for 14 hours now since that shooting first occurred. And Kirk, you just mentioned this is probably the craziest thing you've seen on TV. Go ahead. Yep. Excuse me, officer. Was that the suspect that you were looking for? Yeah, he was. I was just told that he does not know, and we'd have to go through the public information officer. I will continue to ask around here. That's probably the answer that we will get. You guys know that that's what they're supposed to do in this situation, is refer us to their public information officers. You certainly hope so. You certainly assume that was the suspect. And once again, if you're just now joining us, I did see a male being arrested in the Mitsubishi Mirage, which it's kind of hidden now by some of the cars. I know Elliot's doing a great job keeping that camera shot, but it was that Mitsubishi Mirage, that car that police were looking for, and a man was arrested out of that car. Cannot confirm if it was a suspect. I don't know. There were a lot of cars, civilian cars as well, when we first arrived here on scene, because it's a populated area. So I did not see what car that they put the suspect in, or whoever they arrested at this point. But there are a lot of I will say a lot of cars that have left the scene, a lot of police cars that have left the scene. So that certainly could be the case. Now I have a better angle. Elliot is over there. I have a better angle now of this Mitsubishi Mirage, and you can see that the back windshield was busted out. So that could certainly have something to do with the way that the officers were able to get into. Elliot, if you come over here. Yeah, Elliot, if you come over here. Yes, yes. Okay, so that gives you guys an idea right there if... Hey guys, I'm on channel 2 if you need me. Yeah, I got you. I can go live if you need. Yes, I can go live if you need. Okay, tell me when.
If he was Mexican, he would have got shot.
Ernie and Natalie, good morning. Now, if you're just now joining us, this morning, all throughout the morning, we were live at an apartment complex that we had found an address associated with the suspect, and we had been live there since about 5 o'clock this morning. We had seen several SWAT team units. We've seen several undercover police officers throughout a 3-hour stretch in the morning where we were sitting there. If you're just now joining us, we did want to be transparent and tell you what was going on, but we did not want to compromise the investigation, so we are not showing video of what we saw at that apartment complex. We were there for about 3 hours. They did eventually enter into that apartment. You assume they got a search warrant at that point. So the SWAT team did enter into that apartment. It looked like they were wrapping up the scene. You had a crime lab there taking photos. We could tell from our vantage point inside of that apartment. And moments later, after they enter that apartment, the SWAT team is kind of walking down the steps. That 2017 red Mitsubishi Mirage that everyone had been looking for all morning for the past 13 hours since that shooting occurred drove by that apartment. And at that point, we saw numerous SWAT officers, police officers, undercover officers, you name it. We saw them sprint to their vehicles and peel out immediately to follow this red Mitsubishi Mirage. If Elliot can come with me a little bit. You just saw the suspect arrested. We assume that's the suspect. Now that has not been confirmed, and I do want to point that out to everyone, but we certainly assume that is the suspect. The red Mitsubishi Mirage is just behind this white vehicle up here. These are all police vehicles. We are, I want to say, 3 or 4 blocks from where that apartment was. So the SWAT team units, the police officers were able to catch up to this vehicle and arrest what you assume is that 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, the suspect that they have been looking for the past 12 to 14 hours. You assume that that is the man that we saw. We cannot confirm that at this point, but you certainly assume that. And officers were able to catch up with him just a few blocks down the road here and make an arrest. This is all pardon me if I sound like I'm out of breath. My heart is racing here. This has all happened we've seen it, and you guys have seen it on live TV from, when they were, what you would assume, executing a search warrant at his apartment to this suspect then driving by the scene. And eventually now they have caught up to him and arrested him, and that suspect has been taken into custody. No, that was a flashbang, and I was told by a bystander, not by an official or a police officer here, that that flashbang was to keep people away. As you would imagine, this is a very busy area. This is Federal and 72nd here. There's several civilian vehicles in the area, and then you've got 2 Bearcat SWAT trucks that pull up, several undercover cops pull up, as well as police cars pull up. So a crowd, obviously, it's human nature, just what is going on. So people started to stop and look and see what is going on, and then that is when that flashbang went off. They wanted to kind of clear the area to make sure people stayed away, to let them, do their job here and go ahead and arrest that suspect. Once again, we cannot confirm that who they just arrested moments ago here, but you would certainly assume it is, with that red Mitsubishi Mirage that they'd been searching for all morning, and happened to drive by the apartment that is associated with that suspect. Literally 5-10 minutes after we saw the SWAT team enter into that apartment and begin processing the scene, this car went ahead and drove by, and 3-4 blocks down the road now, police were able to catch up and arrest that suspect inside that car. Absolutely, and we were watching it happen in real time, and it was interesting to see that. Someone that you assume, once again, it's not confirmed that the suspect, but what happened last night at that Walmart, we've been told all morning that they're searching for this person and that they are armed and dangerous. So yes, it was surprising to see, all the doors open, they pull him right out. He's on the street being handcuffed right in front of us. And yes, I guess peacefully is a good word for it, but, when you've got... If you pan around here to take a look at just all the authorities, they have now taken away I think they call them the Bearcats, the SWAT trucks. But, if you're in that situation, you've got no chance with all the number of police officers and SWAT team people that are here. I mean, it was quite the scene. It continues to be quite the scene here, but going down in real time, it's something that certainly I've never experienced as we go through it on live TV together here. And if I sound out of breath, pardon me, my heart's racing a little bit, but certainly an experience that a lot of people out here have gathered to watch, take pictures. I see a lot of cameras out. I think you guys are taking a look at that arrest video right there, so you see how it went down. You're seeing it how we saw it, and we certainly hope that is the suspect that they had been looking for, and that unfortunately 3 lives were taken last night, but you hope that person is in custody now.
Nice to see ya. I seen you go live earlier, so.
Yeah, and it all happened very, very, very quickly. it felt like we were on a stakeout almost. We're there at 5 a.m. and it's approaching 8 a.m. and, we'd seen a couple SWAT units come through. We've seen several undercover officers come through. And there was not much to see. We knew where the apartment was. We had seen, I think the term that they used for it is they were staging the area, using precaution if the suspect was home, and they wanted to make sure they had their bases covered. So not much going on for the first really 3 hours that we were out at that apartment this morning. And then they opened the door. You assume they got a search warrant at that point. They opened the door. Probably 5 minutes after they opened the door I did not see the car drive by. Our photographer Elliot here did. He looked at me and said, that was the red Mitsubishi. I looked back over towards the apartment and saw every SWAT team officer, every police officer there start sprinting. And, these guys are carrying rifles, so it's something to see, certainly. They're sprinting to their vehicles, whether it's the undercover vehicles that we're seeing here or the big SWAT trucks. All of them took off. I'm telling, peeled out. You could hear the screeching of the tires immediately. Followed this car, and we are not more than 4 blocks from where that apartment was located, where they were able to catch up to the suspect, and it happened within a matter of minutes. We still have all of our cables for our camera and stuff at the other scene because we wanted to get here to see this and to provide you guys with this video. We left all of our equipment there. We hopped in the car. We didn't peel out like the officers did, and we didn't speed down the road like the officers did, but we turned, we saw which way they turned, so we made the left-hand turn on the 72nd, and before you know, we come up to a scene where they've got all 4 of the doors open for that Mitsubishi Mirage, and they're pulling out what you assume is 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, the suspect that had a nationwide warrant arrest out for him. So it happened within a matter of minutes, and certainly something that you'll never forget. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I can hear you, and I can see Sky 2 above us right here. Yes, I can hear you. He was driving by, and once again, I did not see the car drive by, but our photographer Elliot here said that was the red Mitsubishi, and that's when I turned and saw every officer, every SWAT team officer that was there immediately sprint to their vehicle. So Elliot was spot on. He saw that car, and the suspect, 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, just drove by his apartment where there was, I would say, 15 to 20 SWAT team officers, 10 to 15 undercover officers, a crime lab was there. Probably not a place that you want to drive by when you have a nationwide manhunt looking for you, because there was a lot of police officers there, a lot SWAT team officers there, and like I said, it didn't take them long to hop in their cars, and 4 blocks later they got the guy. As far as I know, we obviously pulled up shortly after. We weren't speeding down the road like the authorities were. But yes, there's no damage to the car. It appears that he stopped behind some traffic that may have been at the traffic light here that you're seeing at Federal. And, at that point, when you've got 2 Bearcat trucks behind you and a bunch of cop cars, there's not much you can do. When we pulled up, all 4 doors were open, and I saw a male laying on the ground. We now know that male was the suspect. So yes, it appears that he, maybe came up to the stop, and a bunch of cars in front of him. He saw what was behind him, and thought better of it. And SWAT team jumped all over it, opened up all the doors, pulled him out, and arrested him. Ernie, it's certainly, yeah. No, Ernie, it's certainly an interesting move to drive by an apartment where you figure authorities are there looking for you. We were there since about 5 a.m. You know, we have the ability, you know, we have some research tools that we have where if we find out a name, we can find out an address and license plate and whatnot. So that's how we kind of started our story this morning. Is we found out he had an association with this address. We started listening to the scanners, and we heard this address being talked about over and over. So we made our way out there, and sure enough, they were combing through that apartment. I will mention, and this is not confirmed, but this is what we hear over the scanners, that they were talking to neighbors as we were out there 4 or 5 a.m. this morning. And one neighbor did tell the officers, what we heard over the scanner, is that they did see the suspects yesterday. So that, at that point, kind of gave us a good idea that this is probably where, in fact, he does live, and that he could be in the area. And sure enough, he drove right by it. Box. Yeah, Kirk, you can see right behind me here, they are loading that red Mitsubishi Mirage that, you know, we've been searching for. Everyone in the area, authorities all over the country, in fact, have been searching for the past 14 hours. There it is right there. They're loading it onto a tow truck. And this is the site right here at Federal and 72nd where the suspect, Thornton Police has now confirmed it was 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, that they did pull out of that vehicle and arrest right here on the street. We did see that happen, you know, right here in front of us. Now, I want to take you back, if you're just now joining us. Since about 5 o'clock this morning, we found an address that had been associated with the suspect. We started listening to some scanner traffic and heard this address being talked about over and over again, so we decided to make our way out there and you know, see what the authorities were working on. We got out there about 5 a.m. and at first we just saw a couple undercover cars at that point that were kind of staking out the area. We heard talks of snipers over the scanner that probably were staging the area, seeing what they were working with there. As the hours went by, we had several SWAT trucks come and park right out front of the apartment. We had crime lab vans come park out front. So, you know, you got the sense that something was happening. Maybe they were waiting for a search warrant. About 8 o'clock, maybe 7:45, they did enter the apartment, and we know that apartment was associated with the suspect through our research, and we saw some SWAT officers go ahead and enter into that apartment. No more than 10 minutes after that, our photographer here, Elliot, he looked at me and he said, "That was the red Mitsubishi." And I turned around, and 10, 15, 20 SWAT officers, undercover officers, then sprinted to their vehicles from this apartment, peeled out. I mean, it's like a scene out of the movies where you see the smoke coming out from under the tires. They peeled out and went after this red Mitsubishi that you're now seeing here. And we're about 4 blocks down the road now. Once again, it's Federal and 72nd. They were able to catch up to the red Mitsubishi Mirage. It appears that it's at a stoplight. You can see here that maybe the suspect caught up to kind of some, you know, traffic in the morning and was backed up by a few cars at the light. And, you know, you assume he looked in the rear view, and you've got 2 SWAT team trucks behind you and a bunch of police cruisers, and there's nowhere to go. So as soon as we pulled up here, we saw all 4 doors on that car opened up, and that suspect, 47-year-old Scott Ostrom, being arrested on the street by officers. I believe we gave you a picture of that earlier. We're able to confirm that it was the suspect, and it's just amazing to think that, you know, after being out there for several hours this morning where there was not much action going on, I think the term that they use for it is staging the area. We saw a lot of staging, but not much action. And literally 5 minutes after they opened the door and probably found that he was not inside, the suspect comes driving by his apartment. And we all saw it in real time as officers then got to work, and just less than 4 blocks down the road were able to arrest that suspect, and off goes the vehicle that folks have been searching for here in this area for about 14 hours now since that shooting took place. And suspect is in custody, and that vehicle is being towed away. I did not. I can't explain to you how many officers, SWAT team officers, police officers, undercover officers were here. Fantastic job by, I see Westminster Police, Adams County Sheriff's Office, the SWAT team was here. Fantastic job by them to catch up to them. I will say that if you were joining us live, there's a lot of hectic stuff that we were able to hopefully paint the picture as well as we could, but you may have heard what sounded like a flashbang. It was a flashbang. A bystander told me that that went off not to apprehend the suspect, not to help with the arrest, but rather because, as you mentioned, Megan, it's such a morning rush time where there were so many cars and people in the area. There's a Walmart right here, there's a bank right here, there's a Boost Mobile behind me. I mean, there's a gas station, so there's a lot of people in this area, and the authorities set off that flashbang to get people to kind of back up out of the area. That's why that happened. I was frightened when I heard that, because when you hear that noise, but then when you find that the suspect's laying on the ground in handcuffs and the authorities were doing that for that reason, makes you feel a little bit more at ease.